November Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. If you please rise with me, we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And it's
Mr. Tizola is on vacation, and Mr. Dubois had a conflict, so they are not with us tonight. Mr. Haberman.
just a couple announcements. If anybody has their... Oh, sorry. Here, this is attendance. I started talking already. Hold on. Here.
Mr. Vecino.
Here.
Ms. Ferrante. Here. Mr. Soto.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
I now give my spill. If anybody has their phones on, could you please put them on mute so they don't go off? We appreciate it. The other folks who have to speak today. The other item, another item I want to bring up is if anybody feels that they have their application is in conflict with one of the board members, if you can let me know when you come up to present, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas will be voting for Mr. Vecino.
For who?
Thomas will be voting for Mr. Vecino.
I also want to point out that Mr. Thomas will be voting in place of Mr. Tizola, who's not here today. Important one. We decided as a courtesy to start with item number 4, and then the second item will be number 1 and thereon. Okay, so why don't we begin?
Item number 4, 25 Snow Apple Lane, MPB 58712-4A, in an R10 zone. Attorney Kevin J. Crusaden, agent for Joseph C. and Christina Salzillo, the owners. Section 3.1.4.1, side yard setback of 4 feet where 10 required to construct an attached garage.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mr. Harris, my name is Kevin Crusaden. My office is at 26 Cherry Street. I'm here on behalf of Joseph and Christina Salzillo, the owners of 25 Snow Apple, and the applicants for this variance request. I do have a couple of items to present to the board. I have some photographs of some of the other houses in the neighborhood. Also a photograph that's of the subject property that on the back it's written 25 Snow Apple. I have the affidavit that Mr. Salzillo posted the sign on October 31st. We've already given Meg Green the certificates of mailing, and I have letters of support from 7 neighbors in the immediate vicinity of this property. This is a request for variance in order to construct a garage, detached garage to the existing residence. The hardships are the shape of the lot. You can see either from the plans that have been filed or the map that's in front of me, the unique shape of the lot, also the topography of the lot. The elevation of the lot drops down as you move further away from the street. So really there's no other place on the lot for a garage. We're asking for a variance from 10 feet down to 4 feet. Something that's unique within the Milford regulations, or that is unique as when it's relative to this application, is that an accessory structure can be 4 feet from the property line. But because this is an attached garage and not unattached, it has to be 10 feet because it's part of the primary principal structure or primary structure on the property. So if the garage were to be unattached, we wouldn't seek the variance. However, the it didn't really make sense to do that from a structural and building code point of view. It also didn't make sense to do that because it really wouldn't look right, and that's not what the intention is. So we're asking for this variance. Those are the hardships. The Sazillas are here with me this evening in the audience, and if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Attorney Crusaden, there appears to be a shed, like back behind the driveway. Is that going to be taken down, or is that staying?
I believe that that's staying. I can check with my client, though, if you'd like. The intention is for it to stay.
Any other questions from the board? Anybody?
And that's a permitted shed?
I'll have to ask Mr. Salzello whether it's permanent or not. Yes, it's permanent. Permitted or permanent?
understand.
Permitted.
Permitted.
Did we get a permit for it?
Oh, okay.
Right.
No, he does not have a permit for the shed.
But, hey, John, I just want to, the garage is only 19 feet wide. You're gonna need the shed to put lawnmower, gas, snow blower and stuff. You're not gonna fit in there and get 2 cars in that garage. So he kind of really needs the shed.
Also needs a permit.
Well, he can get a permit for that when he gets a permit for the garage and, yeah.
And the shed isn't a question here. I mean, this is the variances for the garage only.
Right. I understand what the variance is for, but we have a question. We have an opportunity to ask questions as commissioners, right? Yeah. Okay.
But if the concern is, or the intent, the desire is for the Sazillos to apply for a permit for the shed, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Mr. Chairman, that's an easy problem to solve.
Excuse me?
The shed is an easy problem to solve.
Okay. Any other questions? Is anybody here who would like to speak in favor?
Yes.
In favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anybody here who would like to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Discussion? Nope.
I don't have a problem with this. All the neighbors are in favor of it, and, you know, house needs a garage. And the way the house is positioned, center of the lot, you can't get one on either side of it, so, you know, I don't have a problem.
Any other comments? Seeing none, need a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Approval is based on the hardship of the size of the lot, and all work in accordance with the site plan.
All right, Mr. Soto? Voted, made a motion?
With the motion.
With the motion?
Durante?
With the motion.
With the motion.
Yeah. It's unanimous, it's passed. Item number 1.
Item number 1, 273 Cherry Street, MPB 77/813/24 in an R5 zone. Section 9.2.1, Pamela A. Hunter and Douglas Hunter, appeal of decision structure on Milford Cemetery Association property.
Good evening. Just put your name and address, and you can proceed, okay?
Thank you. I hope this has got that in the right place. I'm Pamela Hunter. My husband's Douglas Hunter. This actual appeal is
Could
also...
you just put your address into for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. Pamela A. Hunter. Just tell me if you need anything else that I'm not doing right.
We need your address.
sorry, 69 Spruce Street,
All right.
Milford, Connecticut.
Perfect.
All right. Now do I start? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Board, and for hearing us this evening. And we are obviously novices. We did not hire an attorney. There are 3 neighbors that are actually making this appeal this evening. This appeal is about the Milford Cemetery Association, which is located on 271 Cherry Street, the Kings Highway Cemetery. They recently built in April of this year a storage shed at the very back of the property, which abuts the properties on Spruce Street. What has transpired since then is that in addition to this storage shed, there has been a recycling bin / retaining wall that was built. And this wall from our side of the street is 10.5 feet tall. And I think it would be easiest if I hand out these documents. Just as a minor correction, you'll see a zoning map that's attached as one of these documents. We're actually in R10 residential. I don't think it matters because I think R5 and R10 are grouped in the same residential type properties and occupancies. Prior to the building of these recycling bins and what is really a retaining wall now, the view from our properties was a wooded property at the edge of a cemetery. When we purchased our property 20 years ago, we saw gravestones and then we saw woods. And up until October 7th, I believe, that first set of photos was probably around September, the first one was around September 20th. We happened to have a party, so I know the exact date. The landscape changed drastically, as you can see. We now have, behind our 3 properties, a very large retaining wall / set of recycling bins. And this is obviously going to impact the value of our properties. It is a visual impact to us. There has been a noise impact since they've been doing this construction all summer. And we have numerous questions and concerns about this. I'm just going to hit the high points and then let you guys ask your questions. We know that in the time that we've been residents of City of Milford has gone to great lengths regarding beautification of properties. We can't find anywhere in a commercial zone that type of wall shows anywhere. Actually, what's really interesting is we see that in regard to fence, you could not build a fence more than 6 feet without a variance. We have looked at the architectural drawings that were provided to us when we filed this appeal. We don't see where it says how high the retaining wall, actually it was supposed to be recycling bins, it never said retaining wall. We don't see how high that was supposed to be. The original drawing of what was supposed to be there versus what was built, this recycling bin, I'll just call it that to be easier, is located in a different spot than it originally was shown. From what we can tell in discussions with inland wetlands, there was no permit regarding fill or clearing of land. So that is troubling to us. The retaining wall is troubling to us because we haven't had anyone tell us that it's engineered. Those blocks that you see are concrete blocks that have been laid on top of each other. And from what we can tell, we did a little research and looked at the 2012 International Building Code, which the state of Connecticut directed us to. And according to that, any retaining wall over 4 feet has to be engineered. We've got no confirmation that this has actually been engineered and nobody telling us that it's actually safe. We are very concerned about what this impact is going to be to our property. We understand a swale has been built that goes kind of around the backside of this and is supposed to be the runoff. There has been impact. We see that there was wildlife that was there before that doesn't exist any longer. So there has been an environmental impact. We have a number of questions because of the size of this storage shed and the size of these recycling bins versus the two cemeteries that they are there to be used for. And it seems like a lot bigger than is necessary. Based on all of this, we're looking for the board. Ideally, we would love for the board to say, this shouldn't have been, and you guys need to take it back down. Let me reiterate, if I didn't say this already, my husband and I left on a trip on October 7th. The property looked about like what I showed you in that first picture on the first page. When we got back on the 11th, 4 days later, half a wall was up. So something happened very quickly. The entire change in this property was going on from April to October of this year, and it went very slowly. And this last piece of the puzzle seemed to come on very quickly. I know that my neighbors have some other comments, but I guess this is a point for me to stop right now.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Then if anybody's here like to speak in favor of this application, they can come up and give their name and address and whatever you'd like to say.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Gaudiosi. I'm at 63 Spruce Street. The property, the wall is directly behind my property. We have a copy of the original drawing that was pulled the Monday after the wall went up. And this is what has been on record. As you can tell from the drawing, it is nowhere near to what was built. In proximity of the placement of the fence or the height or even the location of the wall is totally different than what went up. My concern with these recycle bins is, what is recyclable material? Where are they pulling this from? The two cemeteries? Is it leaves? Is it grass? Is it trees? We've walked the cemeteries. We walk every night through the cemeteries. There is no trees coming down. We've seen piles in the back in the past. Where's it coming from? Sometimes we think it's coming from the outside because the amount of material back there on occasions has been nowhere near what should have came out of the cemetery combined both together. They're talking about recycling it and reprocessing it for other use. How's it going to get reprocessed? Is it done naturally? Is it done from machines? If it is done from a machine, does it need to be permitted? Or is it something that is done naturally and breaks down itself? Is it going to be covered? The wall itself is above my fence. Is it going to blow into my yard? You know, that's a big concern of mine because the third block is 3 feet above the height of my 6-foot fence. I put 3 yards of mulch in my yard and it's higher than 3 feet tall. So they're talking 22 acres on Kings Highway of leaves. That's a lot of leaves. I mean, you people rake your yard, do you know how much leaves you get out of a yard? 22 acres is a lot of leaves to be blowing around back there. What's the recyclable going to be used for? When they reprocess it, is it going to go back on the cemetery property? Is it going to be moved from the cemetery property? Is that legal? It's supposed to be reprocessed from the cemetery property. I'm concerned it's going other places. And basically the smell. I mean, everybody has rotten leaves in their backyard in bags, you know, that gets wet. We use our backyard. We have a pool back there. We have a hot tub back there. We use it all summer long. I don't want to be sitting back there smelling whatever comes over the top of the process plant because they're saying recyclable. You know, my concern is what is recyclable, how is it going to be used, what's going to happen after it's processed, and how long is it going to stay in the bins? I mean, that wall is about 100 feet long. It stretches above the 3 properties. Much too big for the size of the cemetery. So, and is there going to be equipment parked down there? You know, it's a big shed, it's got 3 bays. From my understanding is they could have 1 commercial vehicle out on the property at a time, and the rest has to be shedded. So is other commercial vehicles going to be parked in that parking lot? Because if you look at the size of the parking lot, it looks like a small parking lot for a mall. I mean, it's huge. They told us it was going to be gravel. My understanding now it's going to be asphalt. The asphalt is supposed to be pitched to the wetlands, which is going to run off to the wetlands. And also, how about the recyclable? There is no drainage in the wall. They put that wall up way too fast for drainage. We've walked the wall. There is no drain pipe, so it's going to be natural drain from the wall. There is no true grind, which is a barrier kind of like rebar for cement in the wall to hold the ground from moving. The blocks are big enough where you probably could say the wall's never going to move, but you know, there's always that possibility that that wall may move. There is no rebar, which they can't pin it because it's probably too big. Their blocks should be pointed the other way, which we never saw an engineering report, so we don't know how it's engineered, because as Pam mentioned, it was thrown up over a weekend. You know, that's about all I have to say. My concern is what it's going to be used for, besides the cemetery usage. You know, there's other stuff coming in, so.
Okay, before you leave, we have one of the board members have a question for you.
Okay.
Hey, that plan you submitted says the bins were relocated from another area? How tall were they in the other area?
The bins in the other area were probably 8 feet tall. They were in the back side of the property originally. If you're looking at the map where the wall loops around, they were in the back side. And originally, when I walked the land with Mr. Heiseth, the surveyor, Mike, the landscaping guy, and Mr. Baird, the president of the cemetery, he told me that the bins were going to go in the back side of the property and not be seen. That the only thing be going behind our fence was a swale and arborvitae trees. And as you can see, the swale's there, but there is no arborvitae trees there. You know, and that wall is 10.5 feet high. If they're going to put trees in, they got to be 15-foot trees.
Have you contacted the president of the cemetery? Have you contacted?
The cemetery will not call us back. We've tried. We originally, about in 2015, I think it was, Mr. Heiseth, who represents the cemetery, approached us about putting an easement in our property to run electricity to the land, to the new building through our property. You know, after a lot of going back and forth, we decided, you know, came to a conclusion that we could help them, they could help us. And nowhere in the conversation with Mr. Heiseth, Mike, the landscape guy from Arborvitae, or Mr. Baird was a wall ever mentioned. The only thing that was mentioned to us was a swale and arborvitae and beautifying the back so we wouldn't have to look at the mess that was back there originally. But to answer your question, the bins were in the back side of the property, along the tree line, and with the trees up, we never seen it. Even in the fall when the trees fell, you know, you go back there, you could see the pile a little bit if you really looked hard, but it was definitely really out of my sight from my property. I don't know about my neighbor Dennis, if he saw it, but from my property, the bins were in the back and we've never seen it. Now, they're directly in my backyard, you know, and I'm not really happy about that. You know, I mean, if something could be done, that's fine, you know, work with them, whatever, but I'm just not happy how fast it moved when the hole for the electricity going through my yard was open for almost all of July before it got inspected. You know, I dealt with them May, June, July with construction in my backyard from what they've done. So, any questions? Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor of it? Please give your name and address and whatever you'd like to say.
Good evening. Mike Schulman. I live at 119 Homeacres. These guys live on Spruce. I live on the other side. The back of my property backs up. My property backs up to the other side of it. When he was talking about the construction blocks that they're talking about, they're actually those, not to offend anybody, the mafia blocks. Most guys from the trades know what they look like that way. But those blocks were on my side of the property before they were moved over. They were probably between 2 and 3 high all the way around, depending on the grade of the property, because the way the property was graded. I saw them for years, but they were overgrown. So it kind of blended in and I never noticed it. Now what I look at is I look at a big pile of dirt, a big pile of dirt and where the new driveway is, a lot of noise. Now I'm curious about all the recycling stuff they're talking about. How much is it going to smell and stink? How much of that runoff is going to end up in the marsh or the wetlands area there? And how much more water is it going to add to that? And how much more mosquitoes are we going to get? You know, there's a lot of other interesting things to think about, you know. That's all I got to say.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in favor of this application? feel free to come up and give your name and address. Go ahead. That's okay.
We're not used to this. Just because these guys mentioned a couple of things. What we're not showing you, and we didn't want to bury you with 1,000 pictures, but before all this construction started back there, it was treed. I mean, we all bought property that knew we were going to see headstones one day, and we're okay with that. We bought behind a cemetery, and you joke about it, and it's fun. But this looks like commercial property now, and we keep our houses lovely, and we care about living in Milford, and we care about our property values, and we all live in our backyards back there. So this has a tremendous detrimental impact. I work at home. I put up with construction noise all summer thinking it's going to end someday. I am gravely concerned of what they're going to run out of there. And I'm gravely concerned that they clear cut so much of that. We had beautiful birds and beautiful wildlife. I don't know if anybody did an environmental impact analysis, and shame on me, I had a whole course on it last semester in grad school. These are things that I don't think that anyone did any of this, and I know you can't answer these questions tonight, but this is not how we've come to view the city of Milford. If you drive down Cherry Street or 1 Main Street or anywhere where it's a commercial development, you wouldn't see that. You would have build it differently, or you would have said it needs to be beautified, because that's where we live. And, I think we're here to appeal that this is about 20 neighborhoods that ring that horseshoe, and this will drastically impact our standard of living at the end of our workday, where we come home and we have enjoyed our property. So.
Anybody else?
I'm James DeRozier. I live on 149 Corona Drive in Milford, and my house is situated so that when I come out of the house, if you can't miss the building that they one day happened to come up, it seems like all at once, and they have this monstrosity of a building sitting in their backyard, and it's something that even I, from my house, I don't like even just the look of the building, let alone what they've done to them with this brick wall, black wall that they have that looks horrendous. And so I'm totally with them and support them all I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. Nelson Pomius, 39 Spruce Street. I live 2 houses from Dennis Black, and in the summertime we share a lot of picnics together. He's got a beautiful pool in the backyard as well, and just to go there now and see that, as the gentleman called it, the Mafia block, it's about to the height of that balcony there. It's a blight not only to his property, but to all the neighbors in that street there as well. It's just a blight in the neighborhood. It's not pretty at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody here like to speak in opposition to the appeal? Mr. Harris?
Good evening. My name is Stephen Harris, and I'm the zoning enforcement officer for the city of Milford. First, I'd like to talk about the technical aspects of this and then get into some of the specifics that you heard tonight. Technically, Connecticut General Statute 8-7 reads that appeals shall be filed with the zoning commission or the officer from whom the appeal has been taken. Section 921 of the zoning regulations provides for the appeals to be taken where it is an alleged error in any order, requirement, or decision made by the zoning enforcement officer. The application, in my opinion, is defective in that it does not indicate who the appeal is being brought against, the city planner or the zoning enforcement officer. Second technical aspect is that on March 13th, 2015, a special permit was granted by the Planning and Zoning Board. It was recorded on March 13th, 2015, to relocate the equipment storage building and the organic recycling area. And in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 8-8B, aggrieved persons may appeal decisions by the Planning and Zoning Board to Superior Court. There is no evidence an appeal was taken to Superior Court within 15 days of the special permit being recorded. And the Zoning Board of Appeals, in my opinion, has no jurisdiction to hear an appeal of a Planning and Zoning Board decision. Now, to talk about some of their concerns, everybody's talking about the height of the Mafia blocks, and if you're on the Spruce Street side, the Mafia blocks are high. But that's because the elevation of the cemetery is higher up than the backyards of the appellant. So if you're standing on the cemetery side of the wall, they're about this high. But if you're on the other side of the wall in their backyard, it is very high. But again, that's only because of the grade change. The approved site plan has a row of arborvitae to be planted between the retaining wall and the lot line. So once those are planted and mature, there'll be just a wall of green. And they won't be able to see the Mafia blocks, which admittedly are not pleasant to look at. And according to the site plan itself, originally there was one configuration. One certain configuration, there was a slight elbow turn. The retaining wall was supposed to be here. And when they went out and did the work in the field, the entire storage area was shifted about 20 feet to the west. The foreman there says it was to move it further away from the wetlands at the request of the inland wetlands officer. So if you look at the plan the way it is on the ground, the city planner may require an amendment to the site plan to reflect that shift of 20 feet. But other than that, the storage building is built where it's supposed to be built. So it's just a matter of that retaining wall, instead of being here, the whole thing shifted 20 feet over. Lots of these questions that the appellants offered were very, very good questions, and they should have been, they should have gone to the public. I don't know if they did, but those are questions that they should have asked to the Planning and Zoning Board back at the public hearing for the special permit, because those are all very good questions and very good points that they made. However, applicants are not given unlimited bites at the apple. The proper venue to appeal that approval was within 15 days of the special permit being recorded, and that appeal should have been taken to Superior Court. The Zoning Board of Appeals has no jurisdiction to rule on anything that the Planning and Zoning Board has voted on. And I'll be happy to answer questions.
Mr. Soto.
Mr. Harris, what about the height of the wall? I know you're saying, it's 10 feet on the back side, but, those blocks are only 2 feet. It can't be 6 feet on the front side.
On the front side, I didn't measure it, but if you're standing in there, it's about, like, I'm 6 feet, I'm 6'1", so they're something like this high.
So what do they do, bury them down into the ground and fill it?
No, if you're standing on the cemetery property, all right, here's the cemetery property, and you're Spruce Street.
So the grade changes 4 feet is what you're saying.
Here's the cemetery property up here,
Okay.
and here's Spruce Street is at a lower elevation. So when you're standing in
Gotcha.
your backyard, you do see a very high Mafia block wall. But when you're on the
Right.
cemetery side of the property, it's not that high.
All right, so they filled in, I know what they did, okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Harris?
Mr. Harris, just I think it bears repeating because it was one of the comments that was made by the applicants. The inland wetlands, so they were aware of the shift, and it was at their request that it moved 20 feet? Is that correct?
That's the information that I was given. I can't attest to that. I haven't spoken with Mary Rose Plumbo about the technical aspects of this yet.
And just to reiterate for
But
me...
just to, at the special permit stage, this project would have gone, she would have seen it. It would have gone before the wetlands officer because of its proximity to the wetlands.
Thank you.
Mr. Soto?
I mean, this is a retaining wall. Do we have jurisdiction over retaining walls?
It's part of the approved plan. It's
Okay.
there on the plan.
So the bottom line is we don't have jurisdiction over this period, the appeal, because it's not being brought up against anybody in particular, other than what the zoning board does, their special permit that they gave way back. And those appeals to that aren't heard by this board. They have to take that to court, correct?
Correct. I would respectfully ask that this board deny the application for two reasons. One, the appeal was not filed with the zoning enforcement officer or the zoning commission as required by Connecticut General Statute 8-7 and local regulation 9.2.1, and also that the zoning board of appeals has no jurisdiction to hear an appeal of a decision by the planning and zoning board.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, is there anybody else who want to speak in opposition? One second, please. Just a procedural thing. Do they get to rebut? If you'd like to come up and rebut, whoever wants to do that, that's fine. And just again, give your name and address again, and then we'll...
Douglas Gaudiosi, 63 Spruce Street. I have a picture of the grade before the blocks went up. So when Mr. Harris says they only went up 3 or 4 feet, somebody's got the wrong eye here.
You can come up, just speak into the microphone at the same time.
That's the picture. As you can see, this is the picture before the white fence went up. That grade has risen about 8.5 feet to put those blocks in. I'll also show you another picture when it rained before they put the swale in, where my backyard got flooded. So that grade has risen probably 8.5 feet, because there's 2 blocks on top that are in the back where the blocks are. I got pictures of the back of it too, where the 2 blocks are exposed. All the rest is backfill. And I have pictures from the other side of the building. One second. You know, and the special permit, when he mentioned special permit, we were never notified. You know, I don't know the process behind the special permit notification, but that is not something that me or my neighbors were notified on. How do I do this? Sorry. As you can see, before the grade was up, that's what my backyard looked like after a rainstorm back in August. And I have a video of it coming down too, if it's a better picture. So in order to say that he put 2 blocks in and put the grade up there, somebody's not telling the truth. I don't know who, but somebody's not telling the truth. That's a lot of water. I'll show you the video. I'll shoot you the video where I just ran down. And I can show you a picture from the other side of the wall that we don't have here, if that's helpful.
Mr. Chairman, may I see what he's presenting to you? Okay, just for the record, the appellant was showing the board a video of water runoff from a rain event. I'll have more to say in a minute.
Little water. That's okay. And I'll show you what the other side of this. That's what I want to see. Show you how I used to.
So you gave them a right of way in your property?
We gave them right away for electricity. And nowhere during the right of way had they mentioned the wall, ever mentioned a wall to us. And that was after the special appeal was done. So, you know, and I had a very good relationship with them during the whole thing. They returned our phone calls whenever we had a question right away. Without hesitation, Mr. Beard returned our phone call.
Now we won't.
He won't. My wife called 3 times and he has never returned a phone call. It's just, I'm sorry, I just wasn't ready with these. Didn't know I had to show these today. Okay, here we go. You can just swipe it. That's between the wall before the swale went in, and you can see the swale going in. Just swipe to the left.
Give your name, sir.
My script.
What's your name?
Douglas Gaudius. D-O-U-G-L-A-S-G-A-U-D-I-S. And if you keep on swiping, you can see the elevation of the property line on the side of the house.
What's that? That's the, is that their
That was the exposed blocks down behind the block. So those blocks are 10 feet tall, and those are the 2 exposed blocks. That's the only thing exposed on your side of the property.
on the other side of the
On the
Because
cemetery.
that's filled with piles of stuff?
That is filled with backfill that they brought in. So that fill went probably 35,
So that
40
that
feet.
property had a big slope.
That's the property that slope. The very
And
first picture I
that's the
showed.
side.
That's the side view. If you're looking at it to the left, and then it's a black spot. So there is probably, I don't know how to calculate it, 8.5 feet of backfill back there from the time it sloped down. And towards the end of the pictures, see here,
Making sure you talk to the.
yep, I'm
mic,
sorry.
please.
So that's the top part. Okay, I'm going to show you the other side of the building. That is the grade from the blocks. Okay, it's still very low, as you can see. Where is it? You don't need to see my dessert. This is a picture of the swale. From my understanding is that wetlands can have a direct runoff. It has to be a natural runoff, and you can't not redirect it, and that has been redirected. As you can see with blocks, there's fabric under there, under the stones. So there's fabric, which is cool, so there's no grass growing, but that is, from my understanding, it is not a legal thing. And there is a picture of the fabric under the,
Have you gone to inland wetlands?
Mr. Harris, do you want to see any of these?
Like to do something. That's why I asked about jurisdiction. Fill that lot 6 feet.
and that is the side of the property pointing to Dennis Black's house. So you see how high that grade is? That's where the grade was originally, it was there, all the way across.
And that's the swale there?
That is a swale going to the wetlands, yes. And this is the one I want to show you here. That's from my house.
Has the wetlands been out there?
As far as we know, no. They told us that they basically washed their hands with it. So this right here is the front of the property in the cemetery side. You can see the grade that it is from the dark dirt and the new fill they have brought in. So to say that there was 2 blocks put up and it's the grade,
Here you can really see how they filled it.
yes. And there you can see how they really filled it. So we have 2 pictures here. That is what was left on Sunday that still wasn't backfilled. And that is a side view from the cemetery. So you can see how much dirt has been brought in to make the grade to get that 10-foot wall. There's a lot of dirt, and they brought more dirt in today. So there's a lot of dirt going along that wetland. You know, and my concern is the birds and stuff.
How many feet from the wetlands?
You got to be 150, I think, right? They're right on the edge. There's a hill, and the wetlands is right below the hill. So their property backs right up to the hill. Well, I found this, which is a drain coming out of the side of the building, out of the side of the wetlands, into the wetlands. But that's all for a different story. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there's a drain on the other side of the property going to the wetlands. We were looking around, and I think the gentleman from 119 can protest the drain.
Well, if you're done with the picture, you go back, just make sure you're talking into the microphone.
Thank you. So those are the pictures that we have taken from the grades. And as you can see that Mr. Harris said that 2 blocks, it's 8.5 feet. It's 8.5 feet by 100. That wall's 100 feet long, probably 40 feet in where they put the grade in. From my understanding is they're also going to put another swale at the bottom part of the bins after they pave. You know, so I don't know how much higher they're going to build that up. Again, you know, so thank you for your time. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry?
I have a couple more comments because Stephen Harris and I spoke several times. Pamela Hunter, 69 Spruce Street. Stephen Harris and I spoke several times, and it's very interesting that he's saying that we have no basis for an appeal because he told me that this was the process. This was the due process for myself and my neighbors to appeal this decision. He came down within 24 hours when I called the Planning and Zoning office and said, what the heck is going on? We have a wall going up behind our house. And we went away, I kid you not, on a Friday afternoon and came back on a Monday. He was here right away. And after several conversations, when I asked what the due process was for us, I was told an appeal. So I feel very wronged right at this minute if that wasn't the correct process. I just want that on the record. I also want you to know, and I'm sorry I didn't jot the dates in front of me because I didn't think I would need it, I had several discussions with Mary Rose Palumbo. She was supposed to be looking for us to find the architect's drawings so that we could find out what the height of these recycling bins were supposed to be. She was not aware of a change of the placement of these bins. So this discussion that happened is, she spoke to me twice at length. And as I said, I'm going to go back to, I believe that the city's planner's office actually were the ones that approved this originally. I don't think anybody would have meant to approve what ended up being built, number one. Number two, I just want to say again, you know, if you look at this and you look at all the potential ramifications here, irrespective of whether they got approval in March 2015, it seems to be breaking some codes, and I'm not sure why those weren't enforced. We do not understand why 74 inches of fill, we measured by the way, 74 inches of fill was added. The old cemetery property that abutted ours was a gentle slope. What you see now, and I invite you to go down to that property, is now, what they did is Homemakers was much higher, so they took that property and in order to make it flat, and I assume so that it was easier to do whatever they're going to be doing back there, they raised the grade on our side, which necessitated having a retaining wall. If they had left the gentle slope that was there, this wouldn't have had to be built. And no one will explain to us. And just for the record, as Doug mentioned, the cemetery stopped returning our phone calls about a month ago when all this happened. So we really had no recourse with dealing with them directly. And the P&Z office, and honestly, even Inland Wetlands, wasn't getting back to us to say, this is what happened, this is why this happened. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I believe some new information was introduced that I have a right to address.
I'm sorry, what?
I believe some new information was submitted that I have the right to address.
Okay.
Okay. When you were looking at the photographs or the video of the water runoff, if you look to the background, you could see the storage building in the background. So it's prior to the blocks going up, since the cemetery grade is higher, naturally during a rain event, higher ground, the water's going to flow from higher ground to lower ground. That's one thing. Secondly, the project is not done yet. Will be planting arborvitae, and I expect them to probably refine that swale a little bit more. There are a lot of concerns about the wetlands, and those are good concerns, but wetlands concerns are not the concern of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you can't consider any of that in your decision. Ms. Hunter did come in and she asked if she could appeal, and I said, yes, you can. Because she can. You know, it's not my job to say, no, you cannot appeal when you can. And I think that's it.
The final word.
Mr. Harris, the applicants were saying that they did not receive notice of the special permit, so they did not have that 15-day window within which to appeal. Can you speak to that?
I don't know if they received notice or not, but the time to challenge that was back in March of 2015.
But
somebody now can't say over a year later that I wasn't noticed. The time for them to say that was back then.
But if they weren't noticed, if they didn't receive notice, they wouldn't have known there was anything to appeal. They didn't know there was anything to appeal until it appeared in their backyard. How do you reconcile that?
Mr. Harris, they don't mail notices for a special hearing, only for appeals, correct?
As abutters, a notice of public hearing would have gone out to everybody who owns property within 200 feet of that site.
Oh, even for a special hearing, they send out a notice?
A special permit is a public hearing, so anybody that owns property within 200 feet would have been noticed.
Gets a letter? Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm still confused. There's a procedural issue here that predates the procedural issue with the applicants. If they didn't receive notice, there was absolutely no opportunity for them to have appealed. I mean, how can you say that the time was then to appeal if they didn't know there was anything to appeal?
Well, to get technical again, the applicants did not establish constructive notice.
What does that mean?
Notice is either actual or it's constructive. Actual means that it's published in the newspaper or somebody gives you a letter. Constructive notice is you notice something going on and then you then investigate to see what approvals were granted, and in order to make a claim of constructive notice, you have to demonstrate that, and they did not demonstrate that in their application.
But the wall is what their problem is, and as soon as they saw the wall going up, they went down and talked to you.
They have the burden of proof in their application of demonstrating constructive notice, A. And B, the proper venue, since this was a planning and zoning board approval, is Superior Court. It's not the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Any other questions? Make a statement, rebutting.
I just want to talk to this point about us having notice.
Just about,
So sorry. Pamela Hunter, 69 Spruce Street. So as far as notice, this whole neighborhood, there would have been about 20 homes. None of us received any written notification about this notice. The same day that we came home and saw this, that same day period, we were phoning. So we phoned, we spoke to Stephen Harris. I have dates and times of conversations. I know that he went out. I texted him. I have emails if I need to give you constructive notice because I sent emails. The person in his office actually contacted him. So I have copies of the emails. So there was constructive notice to the Planning and Zoning Board that we were questioning what was going on. So if I need to get you documentations, and I apologize, We didn't hire attorneys. This is not, honestly, we live in a city that we think that everything's going to get done right and that we shouldn't have to fight for ourselves. I feel like I want to be on one of those commercials that say the little people, but really? Come on. If any of you lived behind this, you can't tell me you wouldn't be appalled. And I'm sorry that I don't, and my neighbors don't know every technical piece of this puzzle, nor did we want to hire attorneys for thousands of dollars to hopefully come to the exact same place, that this cannot possibly be how my backyard of my beautiful house. All of my neighbors have spent lots of time, money, and effort on backyards and making the front yards. If you drive down our street, we have this great street. If you ever go back in that neighborhood, it's a great neighborhood. I would still say that. I hope my neighbors behind me do the right thing and make this fixed. My husband would really love to.
Mike Schuman, 119 Homeacres. The only question I have is if it's not a zoning issue because of the block wall and everything else, if they're reusing it as a recycling area, doesn't that become a zoning issue? And if that becomes a zoning issue, it should be in front of the board. And then if they're doing that, that makes it a commercial property. If they're doing some type of recycling, I would assume. And that means it affects a lot more of the neighbors than because of all the machine taking place and all the other noises taking place. Because I do hear the machines back there all the time. I hear the beep, beep, beep of the backup of the truck all the time with them doing the work. And I assumed when they finish all of it's going to go away, which is fine. But there is other issues besides just being the issue they have with the wall. And plus, if I'm 200 feet from the property, I never got a notice neither. And I live on Homeacres. So, thank you.
Doug Hunter.
You didn't speak before, so I don't know if I can allow you to come up and rebut something that somebody was addressing through the other speakers.
Okay.
So I don't think I'm allowed to let you speak on that regard, okay? Only those who had spoken before. Does anybody else who had spoken before have one last comment to rebut?
Douglas Cadiosi, 63 Spruce Street, and I guess Mr. Harris maybe answered this one. There was questions about arborvitae's going up, the trees in front of the swale. There's 10 feet from my fence to the wall. Swale is 3.5, we'll say 4 feet, so it's 6 feet of property between my fence and the swale. From what I understand, these arborvitae's are 10 feet wide, and they could grow up to 20 feet. I'm curious on how that tree is going to fit within that 10-foot offset from my wall to the fortress, as I call it. I don't know if you can answer that question, but that's another of my concerns is this tree is going to impede into my yard. At that point, who maintains it? Me? The cemetery association? This stuff was all approved that should have been laid out, and I'm not an engineer. I can't comprehend it, but I think I got Christmas trees in the front that are growing into my yard that I planted too close. And those are only like 4 feet off my front yard, and they're dwarfs. So how is this arborvitae going to fit into my property? This is a question to the planning and zoning. Who said they approved this?
I have a question for Mr. Harris. Who would they go if they have any complaints about how this is being completed based on their approval? Is there anywhere they can go and get this information? They go back to the zoning board, zoning office and ask, and if they have any concerns about it, or they have nobody can talk to about
Anybody can go to the planning and zoning office and look at the approved set of plans.
Well, we did go to planning and zoning to look at the approved set plans, and you have them in front of you. That is what we were given from planning and zoning, which is totally different than what was up. And if this was done in April 15th of 2015, shouldn't the new plans been on record? I mean, shouldn't we've said, holy crap, look what we missed? But that's not what happened. We showed you what we got from planning and zoning in October of 2016. So, I agree, I understand. But again, special committee, special notices put out in 2015, and yet It's a year and a half later and they're not on record. So something's lost here within the Planning and Zoning Board or the filing committee. We were given a plan from, I don't know, 10 years ago? You know, we're mentioning that we should have notified the Superior Court when this came out with a 2-week period, yet the new plan is not even filed with Planning and Zoning for us. So, you know, it's very concerning on the process here. You know, we thought we did the right thing by coming in, we filed right away, we jumped on it ASAP, and yet we're getting contradicting from the Planning and Zoning Board on what was happening, yet they couldn't even produce the up-to-date plan for us. You know, and something's wrong there. Something is very wrong. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Sorry. All set? Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Harris, if they moved those walls 20 feet, before they moved them, weren't they required to go back to P&Z and get approval? Because that's a change of your approved plan?
I'll repeat what I said earlier. That would be up to the city planner if he wants to bring the cemetery back in to amend the site plan or not. He may think it's minor and not worth their while, or he may say this is enough, or they have to come back and formally amend the site plan for that, you know, something like 20-foot shift.
I would think it's major because of all the problems it's created with the water and the height of the wall.
You know, again, I mean, site plan elements and special permit elements are not the purview of the ZBA. That would be up to the city
Oh,
planner.
I understand that, but I'm just trying to find some help for these people.
I completely understand their concerns and their arguments, and they make good arguments, but they're making good arguments to the wrong board. You know, these are arguments that I don't know if any of these people went to the public hearing, but everything they're saying are points that should have been made at the public hearing when this project was being heard by the Planning and Zoning Board.
I mean, if that was a structure and you put it 20 feet to the wrong, wouldn't they put a stop work order on it?
Are you talking about the mafia blocks?
No, I'm saying a retaining wall over 4 feet is considered a structure and you need a permit for it.
Under the zoning regulations...
If you move it 20 feet...
Actually, under the zoning regulations, retaining walls are not defined as structures.
Even if they're over 4 feet high?
A retaining wall is not defined as a structure. A regular wall would be, like a concrete wall, like a concrete fence or a granite fence or something like that. That's considered a structure. But in the definition section of the zoning regulations, retaining walls are specifically not called structures.
And it's open for discussion. I'm going to make a beginning comment. I can really feel for your concerns. I truly do. If I was in your position, I would have similar concerns and would want somebody to help me with them. What's very clear to me is that we don't have jurisdiction. You're not appealing anything that the zoning enforcement officer has done or has given approval of. The cemetery got their permit through a special permit through the zoning board, and we have no jurisdiction over the zoning board. We can appeal, we can't override them. We don't have that ability. If Mr. Harris gave a permission for somebody to do something and you didn't agree with it, then you could appeal it to our board. But that's not the case here. I wish there's something we could do for you. I really do, because I do feel it. But the bottom line is we really don't have jurisdiction over this. That's my comment. You folks can.
My concern here is that Mr. Harris is laying out proper recourse that was denied the applicants because they did not receive notice of what was going on with the special permit. As soon as the wall went up, they saw it, and they called. But if you're trying to say that you have 15 days after which the special permit to appeal, I don't think that applies here. And if that's the only recourse that they had, and that's the reason, it's a zoning board issue, and that's the reason why we can't hear it, well, I don't think that technicality holds any water. So I don't know if we are the proper board to hear it, but we can't just say there's nothing to do here.
We have no jurisdiction over the notice issue that another zoning board gave or didn't give over a year ago. We don't have that jurisdiction over that. So they're coming here because they want somebody to do something about the wall. Not because there was an issue of notice necessary, although it came up here. And I don't believe we have jurisdiction over that, because that notice had to do with another board and their process. Not that they didn't receive proper notice from this board when appealing something, so.
But I believe that they are here because they did not receive proper notice. If they had gotten the notice, they would have gone to the other hearing. And now we're telling them there's nothing they can do. I disagree with that. I don't know what can be done if it's not our jurisdiction, but the buck can't stop here.
I don't know what else they can do either. I just know it's not within our jurisdiction.
Yeah, I don't think the buck stops here, and nor should it. That's evidently clear. I think what needs to happen is I think this needs to go to, I think I heard Superior Court, and I know you don't want to hear that, but I'm trying to give you your path of recourse. You guys are nodding in agreement that you understand that it's not our jurisdiction, and it's unfortunate that it's not. Well, that's what. Hold on, guys. Thank you. We're in discussion. And it's discussion for the board, unfortunately. I think the chairman made a very sincere and honest answer. We understand, and I would be very upset as well if I was in your position. But if we don't have jurisdiction, then we can't provide you any remedy. The remedy that I think we can provide you is that you have accumulated a lot of good information and a lot of good points, and you need to bring that to a place that can hear this, and I believe that is through Superior Court. So that's my counsel to you, is to just do some research to make sure that that's right. That's what I believe I heard, that that's where we need to go, and I wish you luck when you proceed further on this.
Yes, Mr. Soto.
Well, my opinion is, I think before you spend the money on court and everything, make an appointment with the city planner and go down and sit with him. Ask for the copies of the certificate of mailings. If you guys were supposed to be noticed, they have to submit certificates of mailing that every one of you with the post office stamp on it. And then if you didn't get those and they were required, then you got a case. And that's what I'd look into.
That's a very good point. With all that said, any other comments? Not hearing on, then we need a motion either to, either you deny uphold their appeal. If we don't have a jurisdiction over this, it's very simple. We can't make a motion to.
Right.
I'm wondering if no notice was received because of the size of the cemetery property. And if you go 200 feet, or whatever the distance is, from what point on the property is 200 feet measured, and what area does that encompass? Is it from the edges of the property? Is it from where the main building is?
But I think that question alone right there is a question, as Mr. Pacino and Mr. Soto pointed out, that's something that a Superior Court would have to rule on. So if they had collected all the information, got the notices from the city, and then presented their case in court, that's one of the arguments. And I think that's we're going to need to take that.
Mr. Chairman, a purely technical point. The board has to take a vote. You can either take a vote to approve the appeal or take a vote to deny the appeal.
So we need a motion.
I make a motion to,
Well, if we make a motion to approve the appeal, what are we approving?
You
So
would
you have to make a motion.
have to tread lightly here. I'm just going to reiterate what, the board has to take a vote. You can either vote to agree with the appellants or disagree with the appellants.
But if we agree with them, what does that do for them?
That's a legal question that I can't answer.
So we need a motion.
I make a motion to agree with the appellants.
Second that.
Motion is based on the fact that they did not receive initial notice of the special permit hearing.
Mr. Soto?
With the motion.
I'm against the motion.
With the motion.
Against the motion.
I'm against the motion. Is that a motion fails? Motion failed.
Do we need to take a break?
Yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break until people clear, and then we'll be all set. Okay, we're going to proceed.
Item number 2 on the agenda, 197 Seaside Avenue, MPB 35/430/42 in an R12.5 zone. Van Hartley, owner and applicant. Section 3.1.4.1, side yard of 6.9 where 10 required. Section 6.3.2, expansion of non-conforming structure for kitchen addition.
Hi, my name is Van Hartley. I live at 197 Seaside Ave. And I'm just applying for the variance for the expansion of a non-conforming structure. It's just closing in like a 3x6 area of a back porch that's actually already connected to a pantry, an existing pantry in the kitchen. And it's all within the existing footprint of the house original.
Right. I think that's the key question I was going to ask you. It's already established in the footprint, and you're just enclosing it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Anybody here like to speak in favor of the application? Seeing none. To speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
Okay.
I
Thank
have
you.
no, thank you.
So that's approved then?
Not yet. We're going to talk about it, and we'll let you
Okay.
know in a minute. I have no problem with this. He's just extending it. It's within the same footprint, and it's not creating any, not increasing the nonconformity in any way.
I have no problem with this.
Motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Reason for the approval is that there's no increase in the nonconformity, and I would like the approval to be contingent on following the survey that is provided from Paul J. Stoll.
Mr. Soto?
With the motion.
With the motion.
Ms. Ferrante?
With the motion.
And Mr. Pizzino?
With the motion?
Passes. Thank you. I'm with the motion. It's unanimous. Sorry. Next item.
Item number 3 on our agenda, 31 Sycamore Road, MPB 25/207/83 in an R10 zone. Michelle Zawalski, owner and applicant. Section 3.1.4.1, east setback of 4.2 where 5 is permitted. Section 4.1.4, east projection of 3.9 where 4 required for construction of a second garage bay.
For the record, my name is Dave Quattrella. I'm a lawyer with By Pollock, Blue Ice, and Mulcahy in Shelton, Connecticut. I'm representing the applicant, Michelle Zawalski. She's actually an attorney in my office as well. I'm helping her out with this application. Before I make the presentation, I don't know if...
Can I just get your address? Did you put your actual address on the record?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. 2 Corporate Drive in Shelton, Connecticut. Yes, sorry. And before I begin also, I'd like to hand in the certificates of mailing, the abutters list, the affidavit of posting of the sign and the mailing, and the copy of the notice letter that was sent to the neighbors. Also, before I begin, I don't know if Meg Green or Steve Harris wanted to point out to the commission about the scrivener's error in the notice, which we're okay with, but I believe it needs to be stated in the record. Yeah.
Yes, there was a scrivener's error regarding the actual setback requirement for the zone. The request was accurate, the setback description was not in the first advertisement. The second advertisement had to be run in the New Haven Register, and it was corrected on the second run. So it was partially incorrect, partially correct.
Right. Since the property's in an R10 zone, it's a 10-foot side yard setback. We're looking to get the dimensions reduced to the dimensions we show on the plans in the application that we submitted. So the application was correct in terms of looking for a reduction from the 10-foot setback down to 4.2 feet to the face of the new structure that's proposed, and a reduction from 8 feet for the overhang of the roof down to 3.9 feet. So those dimensions of 4.2 feet and 3.9 feet that are shown on the survey site plan that was submitted with the application are accurate. It's just the first publication, I guess, in the newspaper that was wrong. We realize the significance of that, and we'd respectfully like to go ahead nevertheless with this application. Okay. I have some photographs I'd like to submit into the record. I also have a petition in support. We have 12 of the neighbors that have signed in support of this application. Let me submit that into the record along with the photographs. Two parts.
Just got to speak into this.
The first page has 11 signatures, and the second page has 1 signature. And what we've done also, I have extra copies here. What we've done is submitted a copy of the tax assessor's map, color-coded, so you can see where each of these neighbors reside. Basically, we have everybody surrounding the applicant's property. We do not have anybody signing from the rear. The house in the rear is actually being demolished. That house is on, I always forget the name of that street. Let me just check. It's on the survey. Twin Oaks Terrace. Twin Oaks Terrace is off Birchport Avenue. It's a circle, semicircle. That's actually in the CDD3 zone. Our property is in the R10, as are all the properties on Sycamore Road. Okay. So my client just recently purchased this property in September, I believe September 23. She's a first-time home buyer. She's very excited about acquiring this property and having her first home in Milford. The existing one-car attached garage is in a state of disrepair. The basis for her hardship is the size of the garage does not accommodate really any modern-day vehicles. This house is 65 years old. The garage is very small. She does not have a large vehicle, has an Acura actually, and she cannot fit the car inside the garage. The property is prior non-conforming in size. It's just it's 9,375 square feet, whereas 10,000 is the minimum lot size in your R10 zone. The garage that is existing on the house is also only 23 feet on the front yard setback, whereas your front yard setback requirements in the R10 zone are 25 feet. As part of this project, she would demolish the existing one-car garage and build a two-car garage, which would be suitable for modern-day vehicles, and also to have two vehicles in the garage. Also, as part of this project, she's going to make the new garage in the house itself, which is a prior non-conforming structure with regard to that front yard setback, she'll make that conforming as well. So in fact, not only will she comply with the minimum 25 feet setback, she'll actually have it at a distance of 27.6 feet off the road, which would coincide with the existing front facade of the house. All this is shown on the site plan. The left side of the site plan that was submitted shows existing conditions. The right side shows the proposed conditions, bringing the new structure to within 4.2 feet of the easterly side yard. The neighbors on that side of the property are Tom and Phyllis Gallo. Mrs. Gallo has signed the petition on behalf of her and her husband, and actually Mrs. Gallo was very nice to come here this evening, and she's in the audience, and I believe she's going to speak in favor of this. The Gallos are obviously the neighbors that are most impacted by the grant of these variances, since they're on the side of the property to which we would be coming closer to the side yard setback. This board actually has a precedent of having granted variances of this sort on this street. In fact, this board granted a variance to Mr. and Mrs. Gallo a number of years ago to allow them to construct a two-car garage, which is on the opposite side, on the easterly boundary of their property. That variance actually, as I understand it, allowed them to build their two-car garage to within 4 inches of their neighboring property. In our case, we're looking for a variance that would bring us to 4.2 feet. So we would still be retaining a larger side yard setback, and one sufficiently large enough to allow us to, maintain, repair that side of the garage in the future without having to go on to the Gallows property. I have some photographs, as I said, which I neglected to hand out when I was up there. There's 2 pages of photographs. The first page shows the existing one-car garage on the applicant's property. It also shows the side yard into which we would be constructing the addition. The second page, the top photo, is a closer view of the existing one-car garage. And we have 2 photographs of Mr. Gallo's property showing their two-car garage and how close it comes to their side yard on their easterly boundary. If commissioners have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
How wide is the Gallows garage? Is it comparable to what you're proposing in this application?
I'm sorry, the Gallows?
Yes, you're using it as a
The
comparison.
Gallows garage, we did not measure it out, but it's slightly smaller than ours. They were confined by the fact that their house was closer to their easterly boundary. So when they built their two-car garage, they went as close as they could possibly do. As I said, I was told they were actually approved for a variance to within 4 inches of that boundary line. They could not build as large of a garage as we're looking for. We're looking for 2 standard bays. Our existing garage is 12 feet wide on the interior by 20 feet in depth. The applicant's looking to have a two-car garage, so the proposed footprint that's shown on the plan, the right side of the site plan, shows a 21-foot wide garage by 24 feet deep. We're going to be removing part of the back deck to allow the garage to be deeper because the applicant is looking for the two cars to be able to fit side by side, the standard modern day size vehicles, and also to allow for a little storage at the back of the garage. So it would be 21 by 24.
Any other questions?
Is it just storage up above? There's no living space up above, is that correct?
No, this is it's an existing cape, one-story cape. The garage would also be one story, and it would just be storage at grade at the back.
When I drove through the neighborhood, I think I counted that there were 2 houses, is what I have written down, that have a double garage, and then 11 that have a single garage. So I'm just curious why you're going for the double garage. You have a single garage. If you put a single garage there, you probably would meet the setbacks without having to request a variance.
No, we could, well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, the applicant's boyfriend is moving in, so there's going to be 2 people residing in the house. The existing driveway is very small. If we park one car in a one-car garage and the other car in the driveway, we'll be in a situation where we need to jockey vehicles or park the cars in the road. We're looking to keep the cars off the street. We're looking to have a wide enough driveway where both cars can pull in and out of the garage without having to move vehicles, and as I said, to keep cars off the street. As you said, there are other 2-car garages in the area.
A minority.
Yeah, pardon me, I'm sorry.
A minority of 2-car garages on that street. And I think my question was, if you did a 1-car garage, which is the same as what you have, then you wouldn't need variances to the setbacks, right?
Well, we would. Well, this garage is very small. It's only the door itself is less than 8 feet wide, and even for her car, she can't get the vehicle into the garage as it is right now. So we're going to, and the garage itself, if you walked around it at all, it's in pretty much a dilapidated state of repair. So we have to take it down no matter what and rebuild. It makes a lot more sense to build a 2-car garage than a 1-car garage. And since there was some precedent in the neighborhood for variances having been granted, we believe there is a hardship. The lot itself, I mean, as the applicant in the prior application mentioned, Attorney Casaden, the interesting thing about your R10 zone, we could build an accessory structure in the backyard and come to within 4 feet of the boundary line without necessity of a variance. We're actually trying to keep this more than 4 feet off the boundary line, the 4.2 feet, and replacing an existing 1-car attached garage with a new 2-car attached garage. Closer to the road, less need for a long driveway for paving. As I said before, this is the applicant's first home, and she's looking to have the garage attached and close up to the street with not a large driveway.
Can I go one more? And what was the hardship again? You mentioned that she has a hardship. Can you tell me what the hardship is?
The 2 hardships. The lot is prior non-conforming in size, and also the structure, the garage itself that exists is 65 years old and wasn't designed for modern day vehicles. And she cannot get her vehicle in the existing garage. You can tell from that, if you look at the second page of photographs, the photograph on the top, you can see this is it's a very small garage. And actually, the first page, the photograph on the top left-hand corner, you can see that the garage is not in terrific condition.
I don't think there's any question that the garage isn't in good condition. I guess maybe we just need to go through the math, because I've asked the question a couple times and maybe I'm not leading you correctly to get the answer that I'm looking for. So the garage is dilapidated and it's small right now, I understand that. So you're building a two-car garage. It's 21 feet in width, is that correct?
21 feet, yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
It's,
So, and you're encroaching on the setback by
well, we're going.
4 feet?
We're asking to go from 10 to 4.2, so
Okay,
it's
so
5.8 feet, yeah.
So about 6 feet.
Yeah.
So would it be reasonable then, I guess what I'm asking is, you have a one-car garage. If you only build a one-car garage, it wouldn't need to be 21 feet wide. It would be roughly maybe 12 feet wide, at least, you know, somewhere around half of it, and then you'd be able to meet the setback. So that's what I'm putting forward for this board.
Any other questions?
I just want to point out to you, John, that this is the exact same, we just approved this on Snow, what was that, Snow Apple? 4 feet off the property line, the exact same scenario. So why do we give the one and not to the other? I mean,
This one has one garage. It has
yeah,
one
but
there.
it's the exact same situation here.
Okay. That's why it's up for debate.
Any other questions? Questions?
I don't have any.
Yeah, good? Okay, all right. Here who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, come up, give your name and address, and say what you'd like to say.
Hello, I'm Phyllis Gallo. I live at 25 Sycamore, and I know what their garage is like. It's very tight in there, and my husband and I years ago made our garage larger, and it makes it a lot easier for the two cars to go in it, and there's more room, and I being next door to them, I don't mind them being that close to my property line. My neighbor didn't mind me being close to their property line. I don't see why it wouldn't pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come up and speak in favor? Please give your name and address.
Yes, how you doing? I'm Michael Solowski. Michelle's my daughter. I live at 12 Timothy Drive in North Haven. The car garage that she has, I don't know if you guys know, there's a 3-foot fireplace in that garage. So you can't pull your car in because there's a fireplace that sticks out 3 feet off the wall. And the fireplace in the garage, the foundation of the garage is sagging, so the fireplace is pulling off the house. So the fireplace does have to come down. The garage floor is just sinking. So a regular car can't fit in that garage with the fireplace there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anybody here who'd like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, this hearing is closed. And up for discussion. Thoughts?
Well, we approved Snow Apple in its exact same situation, 4 feet. He had a petition with 7 or 8 signatures of the neighbors. Here we have 12 signatures of the neighbors, so I don't have a problem with this.
I agree.
Any other comments?
I think it's great that the neighbor who is the most impacted by it came here, so I appreciate that.
Okay, any other comments? If not, take a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Approval is based on the hardship of the size of the lot.
Mr. Thomas?
With the motion.
Ms. Ferrante?
With the motion.
No?
With the motion.
With the motion.
And I'm with motion. It passes. Thank you. Agenda item, so part of the hearing is, this part is closed, and I guess we have to look at if there's any minutes, right? We'll do the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes unless somebody else...
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Is there any application next week? Next month? I won't be here next week. But I may be here next month, not sure. one, okay. Any other old business or anything?
Maybe.
Nope. All right, make motion, they have the closed hearing. Is he supposed to, the calendar thing? Just to
Probably
proceed?
should wait till Joe is here.
Yeah, we'll wait.
I think we're good then, yeah?
Yeah, there was talk of modifying the calendar potentially for 2017, but it'd probably be good if Mr. Gisolo was here.
Yeah, we can talk about it and vote on it next month.
I think we're good.
We've a choice of calendars.
One important staff update. For the record, Ms. Eggleston has formally resigned from the board, and the mayor's office has been notified.
Make a motion, close the hearing?
Make a motion to close.
Adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.